All right. Welcome back to a new series I'm going to be introducing to YouTube. It's going to be more of a long form content video. As you guys have seen the podcasts over the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple called Reacting to Fitness Takes. So I want to make this a recurring series on YouTube weekly where I kind of collect the feedback that I see from social media, whether it be, posts, tweets, whatever it might be. Bring it here, be able to share it with you guys and just give my opinion on what's going on. Whether it be news, whether it be training advices, programming, coaching, client things, whatever it might be. I just want to give my reaction to it and make this a weekly thing. So I'm looking forward to it. Just before I start, if you do want to work with me or in a client coach setting, online or in person, you can reach out on www.bgperform.com/training. You can reach out to me on Instagram as well. I have my link tree in the bio. You can click that and it takes you right to where I'm going to be or where all my stuff is going to be. On top of that, you can always tune into the BG Perform podcast, which is updated every Tuesday. There's a new episode. Along with that, I've been doing a really cool series for OPEX, which is a great fitness education company. Actually, one of the very first fitness education companies that I learned from in my coaching career. So I've been lucky enough to do a weekly series with them called Behind the Design with Coach Daniel, led by Candace, who is the head of marketing over there at OPEX. And she's done a great job. And basically we get to just dive into programming, tips, tricks, experiences, whatever, me and Daniel feel is necessary to talk about for upcoming coaches, which has been a great time. We update that every Tuesday as well. We do our live episode. Our podcast is out every Tuesday morning, and then I record Behind the Design later in the day. And then on Wednesdays, we actually record the new podcast. So today, while I'm making this video, later on, I'm going to be recording our next podcast episode, which is actually going to be interviewing Candace, who is head of marketing, has some great insight on fitness marketing. So if you're a coach looking to improve your fitness marketing, Candace is the one to check out. So outside of that as well, if you are a coach who is checking out this video and want to improve your coaching, I started a new coaching group, which I'm super excited about, called the Coach Connect. So this is going to be a group where coaches like myself and other coaches in the area or all around the world are coming together to create an environment where we can grow together. This isn't your normal group. I'm not claiming to be a financial guru or claiming to, get your business to $10,000 a month. I want to influence the highest level of coaching and the highest standard of coaching. And how I want to do that with Coach Mike is by creating an environment that teaches people how to coach and how to be professional coaches. So I'm introducing that to the world. We have been working on this for probably about 6 months, and we just had our first 2 calls officially, like with the full thing done. So if you're interested in that, just DM me. You can DM me Coach Connect, or you can just send me a message and we'll set something up so I can get you in there, because we're looking to grow that thing and get a real, consistent group of coaches who actually want to coach, and not just people who are obviously want to build careers, but just not people who are just looking for a shortcut. But yeah, so without further ado, I want to get into some stuff I found on Twitter. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see. Yeah, so we're just going to share the screen. Start at the top. This won't be a long video. I just want to kind of dive into a couple things that I found that I thought were really interesting. I've seen a lot of this Fred Duncan guy. I've seen a lot of his stuff on Instagram. I've seen a lot of his stuff on Twitter. And I like a lot of the things he talks about. But this right here, early in my career, I thought good coaching meant constant feedback. Every rep or mistake, I was trying to fix it or correct it. It felt like coaching, but what it actually was dependency training. Athletes weren't learning to solve problems. They were learning. And you can kind of see this little graph he makes, like the bandwidth feedback in sprint coaching, specifically with, sprinting. There's too much error. Acceptable range on target is towards the bottom. And he talks about what is bandwidth feedback. And this provides feedback only when performance falls outside of the acceptable range. And I think this is, for me, something that a lot of coaches struggle with, because we feel like we have to coach, right? And what I mean by that is obviously we're there to coach, right? But not every single minute of every single session and every single rep needs to be coached to the highest capacity. You don't need to be cueing every single thing, because people move, right? And that's the whole point of fitness. The whole point of fitness is to learn movement and learn how to move your body through space in the way that feels best for you. It might not look the same. It might not be this, this exact kind of framework of like a squat should look like this and someone's posture should look like this, because I think a lot of the things in the fitness world have unfortunately been kind of boiled down to very simple pieces. And let me rephrase that, because simple is always good, but I think there's been too much of a focus on words like neutral and posture, and because posture is very dependent on what you do in your life, right? And it's not so much there's an exact posture that everybody needs to strive for, which we end up getting these people who are trying to stand up with their shoulders back like this, and they're trying to create this perfect posture, which just to me doesn't actually exist in the world. Posture is very dependent. For someone in jiu-jitsu, having a little bit more of a rounded thoracic spine helps. With sprinters, they're going to tend to have a little bit more of a anterior tilt to the pelvis, because that's just what helps them produce more force. And these things don't mean bad posture. It just means that they're doing what's best for their sport. And I think that's really kind of important to understand. Now, obviously, with a lot of these movement patterns, there's things that are recommended and there's ways that obviously aren't good. I think one of the clearest examples of this is like the spine during a deadlift. And I think a lot of people focus on trying to keep a neutral spine when it doesn't matter so much about the neutrality of the spine. What matters is there's not movement in the spine during the deadlift, right? And that we could save that for a different video. But I want people that read this or look at this to understand that good coaching means good feedback. It does not mean constant feedback. You do not have to fill every single second with feedback. Save it for when it matters, right? Because you want people to hear it. You want people to know that, it's real feedback and not just kind of fixing things just to fix things, right? And I think that early on you learn that. I think as you get going, you realize that not everything needs to be cued and not every single movement is wrong, even when people are doing it. What might not be like perfect, right? And I think that's just something important to learn. So, next, we got a tweet from Aaron Rosick. Be curious in your training. Curiosity drives us forward. Try everything, but no, not everything is going to be good. It doesn't need to be. Don't let failure of an idea deter you from continuing to be curious. You don't know if something new works until you try it. I love this. I think there's two things I want to say about this, right? First is always be curious, right? Always try new things, especially in fitness. And I think, us as coaches, we have to be pushing the envelope and we have to be pushing the limits on coaching, right? But I do think it has to be us doing that. I don't think we can be, what's the word? Exporting that out to clients, right? We don't want to put these crazy untested ideas and thoughts onto people so quickly. I think we as coaches need to be training every day, and that's when we need to be trying this stuff, right? We need to be playing around with it. We need to see what it feels like, what might be best. And like our curiosity is what drives efficient training. We don't want to be wasting time in the gym doing things with people who are there to get results, get in and get out, especially with higher level athletes. I think too many people try things with people too soon before they've actually tried it themselves, before they realize like, hey, this might work, this might not work. I don't know, but you got to try it first till you see. And I think with a lot of this stuff, obviously be curious, understand that there's more out there than what you're just currently doing. But I don't want you to get so lost in it that you're not trying it yourself and just making up stuff when you're training people, especially in my field where I'm dealing most of the time now with people who haven't stepped in the gym in a long time, or in the recent past where I was dealing with higher level athletes. I always test stuff first. That's how I see if it works, if it makes sense. Then I give it to the next person who I have a little bit more leeway with, who the program's not so fixated on or isn't on like a specific timeline. And then if that still works, then I'll try it with one of my higher level athletes. And that's just always the process that I take things. But I don't want failure to fall onto the clients that they're trying something new. I want that failure to fall onto me, and that almost, filtered version to go out to them that's a little bit more efficient and works better. All right, so we got a tweet from Adam Heisler. Baseball players, two of my favorite quotes from the New York Mets scout Kevin Whiteside. Coach Crick, you better love the weight room like you love your mama. Big butts equals big paychecks. Translation, strength matters. Get in a weight room, and get to work. I agree 100%. I don't think the weight room is the end all be all, but I think for a long career, and I always say this, and I think it's funny because especially athletes, there's some sports, basketball, MMA, what else? I'll say those two to start. that strength conditioning isn't always viewed as highly, right? I think with basketball, a lot of those guys are just gifted, and a lot of them aren't growing up being in the weight room. And I think for MMA, it's just not structured. That's what I've learned from being in the sport at the highest level. I think with a lot of these sports, the weight room gives you so much. It gives you resilience, right? It gives you awareness of your body, and it allows you to fully express the sport. And I think what I'd kind of change this with is that strength does matter, and that you need to love the weight room long term, right? You need to be in there as much as possible, but you need to also be on the field as well. And I think that's one of the most important things is you want to love the weight room as much as it allows you to be better on the field, not taking away from the field to spend time in the weight room. And I think that's a very clear distinction that you need to make, but I still love this tweet regardless. Coach AJ, mental fitness. One of the oldest coaching truths there is. You can't practice lazy and play hard. Your habits don't magically change when the lights come on. Success starts with how you prepare and how you put in work. I think this is important. I don't think you can practice lazy. I think you can practice smart, right? I don't think this idea of running yourself into the ground in practice is always the right move. I do think there needs to be hard practices. And I think as a strength conditioning coach who has been in sports where MMA is a very weird sport, right? Because you're almost training 6 different sports inside of one sport. And what could be it's a very hard environment to be in, because it's a very like put your nose in the floor and like grind your face in the dirt, and that's when you're making progress. And I found that a lot of times when you take a step back and you practice smarter, you're able to play harder, right? When you're separating that game from practice, that's when you actually make progress and learn and are able to implement the game plan. When you're just training as you play every single day, you're going to run your body into the ground. You're probably not going to be able to learn much because you need a more relaxed setting to actually learn some of the details, and then you progress them as you learn them into more pressured settings or fatigue settings where you can work on doing them under stress or doing them under load. So it's really important. I do agree with this. You can't practice lazy, right? And he might not mean like physically lazy. He might just mean mentally lazy, right? And if that's the case, then I definitely agree with this. But I think your habits and the way you practice is really important. That's going to help you progress a little bit further. We'll do one or two more here. All right, so this one's from Ross Garner. High school S&C coaches see 300 to 500 plus students a day with fully bought-in school systems. It's critical you hire a qualified person, but also the right fit to train and impact your students daily. If you get this hire right, it'll be the most impactful hire you make in the school. And then he has a picture that says the most influential room in your school. It isn't a classroom, it's the weight room. I agree. I really think the world of sports, and I think a lot of the youth would benefit from having like a real fundamental coach inside of the school, right? I think too many people skip this part in high school. There's no structure, there's no foundation, there's no fundamentals to kind of having a strength coach that's there all the time. That's actually building up the youth and teaching them how to train. And again, this isn't just like a general sport strength coach. I'm talking about someone who's like a personal trainer / strength coach who can not only teach kids how to move, right, but can teach them how to perform. And I think this is really overlooked for so many reasons. And I think one of them being confidence. Again, learning the sport, being able to perform at the highest level, really learning just like lifelong skills. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the stuff you see in high school can be avoided with something like this, and having this be a very important room, especially for men, especially like young boys learning their strength, learning their capacity, being able to express themselves, and women as well, like being able to step into the weight room and learn how to get better in their sport and physically, and learn to love their bodies and learn to love movement. Like it's such an important thing and this is where I'm taking like sports out of this. I'm talking about like humans in general. It's such an important thing long term. And I really think it's such an important piece to the puzzle that we need to kind of work on. And I really hope that high schools take time in the future to hire a qualified strength coach that's actually going to get them to that next level. So That's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you do have any questions or there is anything that you guys want to see me dive into in regards to like takes or anything like that, hit me up, send me tweets on X, send it to me on Instagram, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.